We're live. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I keep wanting to say, spend some time with us this Monday night. It's not Monday night. It's Sunday. And we're doing an artist kind of workout. And for this one, we're doing Travis Charest. And I know it's Charest because it's a French name, but we've always called him Charest, so I'm not going to change now. It's been 25 years. More. So, yeah, now... I'm going to jump right into it. Oh, Art Jedi says hi. Hi, Art Jedi. Lance DuBois is here. Incognito 98 says for once in his life he's early, which is great. Peepa 6881 is here. Dan G is here. Okay, so with Travis and with different artists, I have different influences, or different things that I pick up from them. Some artists, it's really all about the figure dynamics. Mike Mignola is big for me that way. Claire Wendling, which I'd like to do fairly soon, is big that way. Or Frank Rosetta. And then other artists, it's their tech or their layout or the way that they spot their blacks, that kind of thing. With Travis, it's really all of his finishing. It's all of the like hair, things like this. I mean, that whole face, everything there is great, but the way that he did that hair, nobody was doing this before. I don't know where he got it. He's one of those artists that the guy's a genius, So, and I worked in a studio with him for a while, and I watched him work, and he wasn't looking at anything, I can tell you that. And he wouldn't even really lay things out. He would just start drawing, finish pencils. It was insane. So there are a few things I want to draw in this book here. We're going to concentrate on heads because we only have so much time, and this is really about the finish. So I want it to be nicely finished. And then we've also got this book off the page. This is Wildcats issue 4. And I love the way he did his grass. I've played with that a little bit. But the thing about this issue that's so special for me is the way that he's doing all of his rocks. And there are a few other issues where he does this too very nicely, but this one is a really great example of it. And all of this is really so much where I get all of that texture from. And I kind of want to give that base a try. So like right here, and I'm sure if you're familiar with my work, you'll see that basic rock right there. And it's not like I'm sitting copying that rock over and over again, but I have looked at it. It's been a big enough influence for me for a long enough time that you can see the apple didn't fall far from the tree, So Weird One says, what do you think about brush pens? Well, yeah, they're great. I use them all the time. Actually, this is one that I use. It is who knows? It's a brush pen. It's a Pentel. Anyway, okay, so Eric, I'm going to switch to... Oh, by the way, Eric, say hi. I'm just going on and on. We have Eric here, too. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, pretty excited about this one. Travis's art's amazing. Incredibly detailed and just good. The hair is something that I know I definitely need to focus on, and there's no one better than him, yeah. So
no, pretty excited. Yep. Yeah, and there are certainly artists that have picked up on this. I'm one of them, and then there are artists that have done it better, certainly than I have. But Travis is really the original with so much of this style, not just with hair, with a lot of his rendering, a lot of the kinds of ways that he worked, the ways that he did his vehicles and technology. Anyway, let's jump into it. So I'm gonna switch us. So I've got it solo here, and for our first picture, I'm gonna. This is why I don't have nice things right here. Okay. All right. Eric?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, you went mute. I thought, did I lose you? What happened?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to open up YouTube as well, just so I can monitor the chat. So okay. I didn't want to give any feedback, so I just muted myself.
Okay. So when Travis came out with this work originally, I was working at Top Cow as a very new artist. I was working on Cyberforce, and I remember being a huge fan. And one day I decided I'm just going to give it a try and see if it never occurred to me that I knew that I loved the stuff that he did. And I didn't think there's any way that I could touch it. And you know what? I can't touch it. I mean, he's a level above in terms of talent, but despite that, I still got so much out of it, much more than I thought I would. And it was really one day of looking at his work and doing this right here, and it changed my artwork forever. There are a few artists where I could say, okay, yeah, the level of influence that they had over me was that strong. He's definitely one of them. And I put a little bit of thought into this one. I thought, okay, well, I don't want to make all of these the same. I could sit here and draw full figures and do sketches, but it's, I want to talk with you guys about the things that I get out of my favorite artists and really show you kind of my process and thought process when I'm kind of integrating these sorts of styles. I went way too high with this cheekbone here. So I'm just kind of roughing in this face nice and loose, just kind of getting everything established. Pete Da Silva says, this is awesome. Travis is the best. Yeah, he absolutely is. He really is. And El Padrino, and good to see you here, El Padrino, says he can see the influence in Steve McNiven's work. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there are quite a few. And so for this one now, his hair, if you look at it, and I'm going to zoom in on this so you can really kind of see it. If I can find it here. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so here it is, much bigger, and it's incredibly complex hair. But really, he's got basically two tones. He's got, this is the upper surface of his hair. It's all kind of a shape, and then he's got his lower surface. It's kind of shadowed. So two planes. And so I'm just gonna try and keep this in the camera here. So in really simple terms, he's got this upper plane here, and then he's got his kind of shadowed lower plane, and he goes much tighter and more detailed. And I'm just scribbling right now just to get it across, but really it could be black, just in terms of it, like really simple. And I think it's important to, when you look at something that's really complex like this, it can be intimidating. And I've seen people that, start copying this sort of a style, and it's really easy to just get really carried away, and it's just a million little lines everywhere. It's a very controlled thing. So he's got a bit of a shape here. I'm going to just throw that in. He's got this kind of a shape here in really simple terms. I'm just going to kind of throw that in here just as a shadow. And then I didn't really get the right shape here, but it doesn't matter. The point is that that is a light shape here. And that's really what we're dealing with. So you need to be able to think about it in those kinds of terms. All right. Tombo's drawing board says some of Travis's face remind me of Kevin Nolan's art. Yeah, I can see that. And I don't know. I've talked to Travis a few times, but a question I never asked him is, where did you get this? What are your influences? And I kind of wish I would have, and I need to zoom out here. Okay. I'm going quiet, Eric. Help me out. Eric's muted. All right. So I'm getting this kind of laid in, and really, it's all right. I wouldn't have said it if I would have seen that you were muted. Okay. So that's basically the shape. I figure he's got the glasses. I'm going to throw the glasses in. What do you think, Eric?
Sure.
Why not? So basically here, up over the ear, and up over the ear here. Okay. And neck. Okay. I think that'll be enough for us to get started. Oh, hey, SES Powerlifting is here. Good to see you. He has a super chat for $5. Thank you so much again, SES. You're keeping the lights on over here. I really appreciate it. He says, started studying Michael Turner. It ain't easy. Yeah, I cannot disagree. I will tell you that Mike Turner, we shared a studio for 6 years, a long time. And he sat right beside me for years. And his big influences, he had a couple. He had, and while I talk, I'm going to keep drawing here. As soon as I start drawing, I'm going quiet. His biggest influences were Michael Turner, who was a young artist himself at that point, but just a couple years more in the business, and Will's Portaccio. And you can really see that in some of his earlier work. And he had some Mark Silvestri influence, but we all kind of, going into Top Cow, we all took what we had from Mark Silvestri and then tried to find ways to branch out from that. The last thing you want to do is just carbon copy what your teacher does. Johnny D says, R.I.P. Michael Turner. Yeah, that might be. I don't know if that's Johnny Desjardins, Johnny D.
It might be.
So this is, it's, you know how many years, Eric, it's been since I've done this? I think I'm going to say this every time I do one of these, but I've looked at Travis a lot of times, but this in depth I haven't done since 97.
Yeah, definitely had a lot of benefit in doing this.
And so for his mouth, his upper lip, just right here, and something to really bear in mind that really helps with a lip, the upper and lower lip is, here's my upper and lower lip just really simplified, and I'm looking at it from an angle. So because from the side, the lips have that kind of a shape, that means that that plane goes like this, and then the lower plane goes like this. And so here, and you can see Travis has pulled it off. I don't know how well you can see it there, but it comes up here. I'm extending these planes out, and so then I project out this way, and it gives you that dimension very nicely. And I'm a little close to his nose, closer than Travis got. I'm not going to worry about it for now, though. As always, and he's gone up with that lip, I went back down. And this is me injecting my own preconceptions. So I'm trying to break that. But really, as much, Eric, as we're doing that, we're trying to be as close to it as we can. The point isn't really just to do a carbon copy. It's to learn from it.
Right. Some sad news in the chat. Robson Roca passed away.
Oh, no. Well, that is a real shame. Well, best wishes to his family and everyone who he touched with his work. And we do have Russ Hicks here, by the way, Eric.
Yeah.
I saw him in the chat.
Yep.
All right. And already, I don't know about you, Eric, but I'm already significantly more loose than Travis. But I think that's kind of a given, you know.
Yeah, I'm also struggling on the glasses here.
Yeah, I lost this eye under the glasses. He was very good about keeping both of his eyes nicely above the glasses, and mine got a little lost in there. And he's got this plane kind of defined here. These would be kind of shadows, and he just is drawing lines for them and allowing the colorist and having the trust of the colorist will understand that should be shadow. It's something I've never been able to do, and I should probably experiment with it sometime. I've been fortunate enough to work with colorists that I don't think would have any trouble with that at all. And I've come up too high with this. Let me just go ahead and fix this. Oh, Sheldon Martin is here. He said he's running a little late. Well, good to see you here, Sheldon. Tagamo Modelworks is here. Thank you so much, Tagamo. He has a $5 super chat. He says, "Hey guys, I had a chance to meet Turner. I did some web work for him when he was after he started Aspen. A really nice guy, an awesome artist. Miss him. Yeah, we all do quite a bit. It was a real blow. And if there was one thing, for us that was at least nice about it is, we knew it was coming, so at least we, it wasn't a huge shock when it finally happened, and it was something I think we were able to deal with it a little bit more that way. But yeah, it was very, very tough. All right. I've kind of lost his chin. Let me go ahead and fix that.
So how fast was Travis in drawing like this? Because this is just super detailed.
He was pretty fast.
Yeah.
He wasn't fast enough to do a monthly, but he was fast enough to do, more than bi-monthly. So, I mean, for this kind of precision, it's not just the detail, it's the precision. That's remarkably fast. Keith Dotson says, I met Mike Turner at a couple cons, seems like a real nice guy. Yeah, for sure. All right. So I'm going to start working on the hair. Let's check in with Eric and see where you are. I'm going to put you on the spot again. Yeah, it's looking really good. And you're already working on the hair too. You're beating me again. I think it's because I'm talking. That's my excuse. But yeah, and I like how you've got the hair kind of delineated. It looks like you're working with planes, which is great. All right.
Yeah, I came a bit off perspective with the glasses, but it'll have to do.
Yeah, I think I did too. Travis makes it look easy, and in fairness, it is actually easier when you're drawing it rather than trying to copy it. I'm gonna say it is. All right, I'm gonna get back in here and start working on the hair. So he's got this shape here. I love how he's got a hair coming here, and then it curls in just like that, and then another bit here. And I don't want to, this is the risk, I don't want to get lost in all of these little details, because Travis, when he's drawing this, and when I do this, not as effectively as Travis, but when I do it, this is a bit of a later consideration. I don't sit there and do these details from the start. What I'm more likely to do, and I'm going to try and do that here and see how much I can capture of this without just methodically copying every line, because that's a mistake, or at least in terms of learning from it. I just want to try and get as much of that overall shape as I can.
So Al Padrino asked, Dave, by the time Travis was drawing Wildcats, his art style really changed a lot. What do you think was the reason for that change?
It's just maturing as an artist. He started out drawing very much like Jim Lee, and he did that for I'd say probably about a year. He did some stuff for DC and a few people. He still had his own style. I could certainly tell the Travis art from Jim Lee, but he started branching out. I think now, okay, I want to say that I think he was looking at a little bit of Adam Hughes. I don't know for sure, but I think so. I know he was looking at a little bit of Alphonse Mucha, and actually here's a cover where you can kind of see some of that influence, and it's a bit simplified. I mean, there's only so much time in a monthly comic, but you can see that kind of design sense, and especially with the title here, it's very Mucha inspired. So he had some of those influences. Some of this work with the rendering, I had some ideas about what he was getting that from, but I am really not sure. And my best guess would be he would have been getting it from oh shoot, I'm bad with names. An artist in the early 90s. It was very influenced by a lot of the early illustrators, and I'm never going to remember the name, so it is what it is. Okay. What
I'm
I
trying to do his goatee, and my guy looks like he has mange.
here, like, let's see how it's coming out.
It's amazing just how, even with the goatee and those fine hairs, how he managed to just make it look right.
Can you zoom in a little bit on that?
Yeah, 1 second.
Jasper Plan 9 says RIP Wildstorm. Yeah, all the guys are still around. Jim Lee's still doing it, so and El Patrino says Alphonse Muka is a goat.
Does that look better, Dave?
Yeah.
All right.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have a system for that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to switch to me really quickly and show you what I mean, and then we'll go back. So all of his hair, basically, if you look here, it's all converging to a point just about here. And he's a little looser than he can be. And so he's got a little bit of a shape to it. So it's got a bit of a curve. You can see it's kind of doing this just a little bit. So I kind of want to get that. So it's got this shape and then it comes down just like this. And then it's curving under here. So that's like step one. But what I want to do is just go nice and tight with these here and just take my time. And I'm now this is something with a pencil that I had to do for years, is making sure to do line weights on all my lines, or at least most of them. And so I'm just methodically a little bit of a ball and I pull out of it. And even though this is hair, I'm doing Travis right now. I want this to be, and you can see he's got that kind of great shape to his line. And I want to capture as much as I can. Again, anytime you're looking at Travis, you're never going to get it all. Or at least I certainly can't. I think, there have been some artists that have certainly gotten more than I have. But
so I do see, if I zoom in, I have the luxury of zooming in because I'm digital here. I do see he has some of the same ribbons that he used.
Some of the same ribbons.
Yeah, like for his hair. The construction of the hair. They're very there's bands.
Yes,
and they are. Yeah, zooming in. If I zoom in real far, you can see some of those same shapes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a line of beauty, and he uses it very effectively everywhere. And so I'm not using it as effectively, but here it is. And I'm just trying to make sure to keep and I want my spacing to be fairly even. And I'm going to kind of fade out up here and then a few more lines up here. And just think about it like a grad of lines, So you can't throw in hair. You really have to sculpt it in there if you want it to look like, get that tight kind of a look.
Yeah, it looks like you've nailed it.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And you know what? My glasses are a disaster. I'm just going to darken them in right now. They are what they are. I put a little bit of a specular highlight right there. When I said, hey, I'll put the glasses on, now I wish I could go back in time and change my mind. But you know what? It's probably a good thing. Every time you do something like this, you get something out of it too.
Sheldon says he wishes that his goatee had lines of beauty. Yeah.
I wish mine did. Mm-hmm. I don't have a goatee. I can't grow one. So Sheldon, I'll take your scraggly one over the one that I can grow. All right. So I'm coming up over here. Just down this way, and this is basically the overall shape here. And you can see like these kinds of shapes here. So I'm just going to draw that in at the top here. I do this in my own hair all the time. And it's from Travis, all of this stuff. And the nice thing about Travis's work, and he's remarkable in the sense that this book here is 26 years ago, probably. I mean, it is not new, but it looks contemporary, or maybe it does to me. I'm an old guy now. I don't know. All right. So he's got a band of hair coming out here. And like you said, it's like a ribbon. And so it's cutting like this. And what I want to avoid is a noodle. I really want, a ribbon. So it's got this kind of that kind of a thing to it, which is all off the camera right there. I don't want that. I want this. And that's what he is doing here very nicely. And then it's just really, all I'm doing is I'm breaking up the outer edge of this just with a little bit of detail. So here's a little here, a little more here. And you want to make sure, like, you'll notice that he's got a nice little patch of detail, but he's not doing here's a line, here's a line, here's a line, or here's a grouping of lines, grouping. Like, it's very randomized in terms of size and shape, and that takes a bit to get the handle of. Certainly took me quite a while, but this kind of practice using like Travis, I think is a really great tool for overcoming that.
So yeah, Combo's drawing board, I think, echoes what you said earlier. Seems like he didn't think about what he was doing; he was just doing it. He felt it more rather than putting thought into analyzing it. Yeah, bro. Yeah. Some things you can't really explain. You just, but yeah, that would have come by insane amounts of practice on his part. I'm pretty sure, and then become second nature. Then when you got to think about it, you just put it down on paper.
On Travis's part?
Yeah.
Oh no, he didn't practice.
No.
He was a genius, like not a human being.
Oh man.
Seriously, I've never seen anything like it. He literally would start drawing a page by like starting with an eye. There was nothing else on the page, and then he would draw a whole page with panels like this. Like, no, he's not a human being. I think very similar to Kim Jong-ji, who is just it's a level of talent that is just above mere mortals like us. So no, I don't actually think he struggled. I mean, maybe it's unfair, and maybe I'll have Travis saying, "What are you talking about?" I haven't talked to him in years, so that'll be what makes me talk to him again. Me defaming him on YouTube.
Did you do you know what he's working on right now? Did he move into like fine art or?
Well, I actually don't really know what he's working on right now. I know he's done some Marvel and DC covers, certainly Marvel. So he's got some covers, but he doesn't have a lot of work, and which is a real shame. He did a ton of work around this period, and it really kind of slowed down. And so I've basically got it close enough for me. It's not Travis, as you can see. And now the next step to really kind of making it look more complete like this is just line weights. And so I could keep drawing all this detail in, but I find just establishing some of those line weights, putting a line weight here really separates these planes. And then I can go just a little bit thicker with some of these. And the whole idea is, just to get as much of and I feel like I've got a shape, like it's, versus what Travis has, it's much more randomized. So I think I kind of blew that. I've got paint all over my eraser. So I'm going to try and fix that. And that's something to be aware of. You're going to have those sorts of uniform patterns, but if you look for them, then you can just fix it. So it's not something you get better. I found I certainly got better at not doing that in the first place, but just being able to recognize when I do it is a really good way to overcome it. You just fix it.
So Brandon Spence says that he is working on a new project. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, for sure.
Get to see some more of his great art.
He owes it to the world. There's not been enough of it. And this right here, is very much how I've always ever looked at something like Travis. I don't really consider it to be like a desirable, or it would be so incredibly difficult to try and copy his work completely. It would be beyond look. He's got a big string of hair coming off here. I don't know how I would do that. I'm going to try and do it, but it just seems crazy to me.
So there's a few comments in the chat about Richard Friend. Yeah, he was the inker on this, wasn't he?
Actually, yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
A huge shout out to Richard Friend, who inked all of this. All of this work you're seeing, this is all Richard Friend. I had Richard on the channel. We did a process video earlier this year. He's a great guy. He was my inker for quite a while too. So, yeah, we're looking at work that is Richard Friend's work, and we didn't even mention his name. I'm sorry, Richard.
Yeah, that must have been something, inking Travis.
Oh yeah. Well, and a lot of what you're seeing with the line of beauty, all that kind of stuff, that's stuff that Richard very much had to understand, pick up on, and be able to exploit for this to work. That doesn't. You'd be amazed. You think inking is, and I'm sure all you guys know that inking is not just copying, but yeah, there really is quite a bit to it. Johnny D has a super chat for $5. Thank you so much, Johnny. He says, "Hey Dave, what do you think? What do you think your style of art has that no other artist has? Also, would you ever consider doing studies of Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell?" Yeah, actually, that is not a bad idea, doing studies. And I've got a really good book on Boris and his whole process. I don't think my art has anything that no other artist has, truthfully. I really don't. I'm not one of those like generational talents that just bring something completely new and different that nobody else has seen. That's never been me. Travis is one, I think.
Michael, I think I disagree with you there. I think you have a very unique style that's
Joe Madureira is an artist that did something nobody else had done that. Not like that. There are artists. Jim Lee is that kind of a. I think there's or Todd McFarlane. And I mean, really, the list does kind of go on. I am proud of the work that I've done over my career. I really am, and I don't mean that as some kind of I'm putting myself down. But I don't stand in the same space as those guys, because what I do is like a response to what they've done, and me putting together as much of it as I can, but. I'm not an innovator. That kind of, I just don't think it's fair to say that about my work. Okay, so now that I've got his face basically in, his hair is basically in, it looks nothing like Travis. It never will. I'm going to go ahead and start working on some of the lines on his face.
So speaking about painters, David, do you want to mention what's coming up, or? Oh,
that's right. Do we have a date for that yet?
Yeah, it'll be next Sunday, same time, same place.
So next Sunday on this channel, right where you guys are now, we will have Ariel Olivetti painting with us, which is bananas. I don't even know what to say about it. So I've done a couple of painting with Eric. We've been painting every weekend. We missed this weekend because of USV, which now I wish I would have painted, but. We've been painting really because of Ariel. Eric found a course that Ariel has on Domestika. It's all about acrylic painting. He also has courses on watercolor. He also has courses on computer. I mean, he really does it all incredibly. And we got so much out of it right away. It was crazy. So yeah, getting Ariel to come on the channel and paint and also answer questions. I've got a ton of questions for him. I know you do too, Eric.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm pumped. I can't wait.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys watching will have some questions for him too, so we will try to make sure to get those in there too. He is certainly a much more comfortable Spanish speaker than English, and so we are also very grateful to have El Padrino translating for us. So yeah, I think it's going to go really well. I'm very excited about it. And I know what character we're going to do. I don't know. Should we just say what we're doing? I mean, yeah, you know what? I'll say what we're doing because you guys are going to want to be able to follow along, right? And I'm going to have to draw mine. I'm assuming you're going to draw yours pretty soon too, Eric. But we're going to draw Bane. We're going to paint Bane. So I've already talked to Ariel about it. I talked to him on Instagram this morning. So super pumped. All right. So he's got some lines over his brow, and it's got one just kind of like this, connects up here. And you'll notice, if you can see, he's not just drawing a flat line. These all have a bit of a hook to them. And this is something that I do all the time. And this is largely where I got it. And all these elements of my style, and people say, what have you, what do you do that no one else does? Well, this is why I say nothing, truthfully. I don't think it's fair for me to claim anything because I've gotten it all from artists like this.
Yeah, so Alfred Juno's got a week to practice his English.
I've talked to Albert Trino. His English is good. No problems. So he's got a bit of a, I'm going to zoom in here just to really, before I do, let's see how Eric's is coming along. Yeah, that looks great. You need to do this. You know what? Every time you do this, but I think this one actually really, really works for you, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got so much character to it. I think it's looking great.
Yeah, the more I look, the more I see lines that I missed. It's just so detail filled.
Yep. Yeah, and you don't need it all, All right. So here we go. I'm going to zoom in here. Pretty closer. All right. So what I'm looking at are these lines here, and they're very close together. And so I'm going to try and kind of match that in my pencils. I could do this easier with a really small pen, but there he's got that. And then he's got, I'm going to zoom out again in a minute, don't worry, but he's got a few lines here, and that kind of comes up just like that. All right, let me zoom back out. And I've got a line here and another line here. And again, this is really the way that I tend to draw, whereas Travis has a line here and he's left that flat in the back. So let me try and adjust that. And I think that looks good. It's very different for me.
James Linden has a $5 super chat. Have you drawn at life drawing sessions with charcoal, or have you always learned from photos/books with 2H lead?
I've always used 2H lead. I did actually use H lead in the beginning, and I switched to 2H mostly because I found H was getting. Well, actually, H was fine for me. I switched to 2H because when I moved to Canada, all I could get was the Strathmore lead. Not Strathmore. What kind of pencil do I have, Eric? What is this?
Staedtler?
Staedtler, yeah. All I could get was Staedtler lead, and it's not as good. Or maybe it's better. I don't know. But whatever, I needed to go to a harder lead. So
what I'd like to know is how many of these pencils you've sold indirectly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they work well.
Yeah, there's so many artists are using this because of seeing you use this.
Well, maybe I've sold a lot of tape.
Yeah.
This is so difficult for me. He's got a shadow underneath his jaw, and he just left it open here, and he left it for color, and I just cannot do that. It's like a completely opposite of the way that I work, to the point where it's, and I'm not saying it's wrong. It's not wrong. I just can't do it. I'm going to leave it. But so there you go. There's basically my best attempt at Travis.
Yeah, the rendering on the right side of his face, under his nose and his right cheek. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to reproduce that very well. Yeah, and I find even with less complex artists, I can only ever get so much out of any given study, because again, the point isn't for me to sit and methodically copy everything. I don't think you get much out of it. I'm trying to, get a feel for it and make it my own. But I think we're ready to move on to the next one. What do you think, Eric? Yeah, sure.
All right. And it so happens that the next one that I really wanted to do is just on this page. I've copied this hair so many times that this one should be easy. This one I should be able to do without reference the amount of times I've copied this.
I think I'm going to struggle more with this one than the other one.
Why do you think that?
Just drawing female faces. There's less lines, so there's more room for error, in my opinion.
There are definitely less lines with this one. He's only got a nostril and a little bit of a hint of shadow back there. So, Brandon Spence has a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Brandon. And he says, "Hey Dave, how long after you started drawing did you begin to learn storytelling, and how did you go about it?" Well, while I start sketching this in, I'll talk about that. I started doing storytelling about 3 months in, because I needed to do samples. I really didn't put any thought into 3 months into. So, okay, just to give you, I started drawing when I was 20, which is a little late. And I just started by doing basically this. I was copying Mark Silvestri, Jim Lee, just doing, and now they were much more crude than this because I was just starting, but it was a similar kind of a thing. And it took me about 3 months to get to the point where I did my first samples. They were awful. I was nowhere near where I needed to be, but this is how it goes. You don't know what you don't know until you learn a little bit more. So, about 3 months. And I just faked it. I had no idea. So I think my first real study into storytelling proper was when I was working for Top Cow, and I learned a lot of tricks from Mark Silvestri about how to compose panels, how to make sure that your action continues and flows from one panel to the next and you don't contradict things, how to have establishing shots. Like, for a page, here's my page, and if I'm going to draw a city, let's just say I'll draw a big long panel this way, and if I just want a random shot of the city, I could draw, some buildings. Here's a building, and just give it an angle, and that's fine. That'll work. If I want to zoom in on a street, I could start looking down at it. So I'm looking at the tops of buildings like this, and then the next panel I could zoom in. Or if I just want to start out, kind of street level, I've got, here's my street, sidewalk, street light, whatever, some more buildings in the background, give it a bit of a shape. Here's a car, here, maybe a bus. I don't know. So there's a street, some people walking, and then you move from, maybe I'll be concentrating on this figure walking here, and then the next panel, and I'm using my rule of thirds. So I'm going to close in on them here, and then maybe the next panel will close in just a little bit further. And so, I really wish I could explain storytelling more in depth than what I'm doing here. It's the worst example. I apologize. But I actually do have a whole course on drawing a page with storytelling from Proco coming out in September. And so for this nose, Eric, I'm going to draw the whole nose.
Yeah.
And then when I do the detail, I'll just leave out the lines I don't need. But I think it'll be more effective for me. It's a mistake, I think. Like you can see his eye here, he's got cut off by the line of the nose. Yeah. But if you don't have that line in there, you won't know where to cut it. So he's clearly got that in mind. And again, I can tell you from experience that he probably never actually drew that line at all. Just sitting beside him, watching him draw. JD Hutchinson says, didn't Travis start drawing around the same age? I don't know, actually. I don't know when he started. I know, I can tell you that for the most part, aside from a few exceptions, the artists that were at Top Cow and Wildstorm were all generally in the 22-year-old kind of range. Mike Turner was a little older. He was 23. There were some artists that were more like 20. I'm kind of losing this face a little bit. This is what I'm getting here for. I'm trying to match what he has, and I'm not really using my form, my underlying form, and so I'm kind of losing it. So how are you finding this, Eric, compared to last week?
Last week was a challenge. I mean, obviously drawing from memory is always a challenge. But strangely enough, I'm finding this maybe a little bit easier.
Oh, good. Yeah,
I'm
it
not
seems like
sure why.
It seems like looking at how it's coming along. And let me go ahead and switch over. And before I do, Paul Essenson has a $8 super chat. He says, "Hey Dave, Eric, Dave, how come your Proco course isn't coming out until then? What's the reasons? Inquiring minds must know." I don't know. It's just a release schedule. I don't know, but it's coming soon. And thank you. You're off the page.
Oops.
Or off the screen.
Still a bit light. I'll start darkening it in here in a bit. I think I'm going to have to lower her right eye a bit.
The right eye.
Her left eye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking good though.
Yeah,
and
female faces are definitely more of a struggle for me.
Yeah, well, they are for me. They always have been, for sure. My greatest comfort zone is drawing big, brutish characters, and then it just kind of, trickles down from there. All right. So I'm going to start drawing in. I'm not going to put any shadowing. I'm just going to basically do like a cartoon just to kind of get this established in here.
What did they do last week? Last week was Kevin Nolan.
Yeah, Kevin Nolan last week. And I have two more that I really want to do. And we have actually, I have a bunch of different things that I want to do this summer. So we'll only be able to get to so many, but the ones that I have left that I really would like to do, and I mean, it's always negotiable, I guess, but I'd really like to do Claire Wendling, and I'd really like to do Alan Davis. And this is tough for me. This is how I learned how to draw women's faces, just methodically trying to draw it like artists that do it well, that I like. And sometimes it just does not make sense to me. And, it takes a few and then it kind of works. And I've looked at this hair quite a bit over the years for reference. I've never copied the face. And so I'm finding it's strange for me. It's a different kind of a face. He's actually got his lip projected very far out from where that nostril is.
Yeah, I had to move mine a bit.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, some artists can make things that you look at and you think, it's not right. It's odd, but it just looks great. And they can make it work, but it's not going to translate for you guaranteed. So you just have to kind of adapt it. And I never would have noticed that without drawing it, It's very soft with his jawline. Certainly softer than I would go generally for my own work. All in all, it's a much softer face than I'm used to ever drawing. So now that we're in the hair, I've got a bit of a shape like this. Comes down here, up and over the ear. I'm really, if I miss and mine's a little bit too low or it's too whatever, I don't care. It's really not the point. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's kind of about the rules that I'm trying to learn. And really the secret to learning from any artist is learning their rules, not just drawing their work. and I mean, you learn it by drawing their work, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Jasper Plan 9, that'll be, what issue is this, Dave? This is 1, right? No, 2.
This is issue 2. Yeah.
Well, this will be issue 2.
So then I've got another kind of shape, and I'm just going to break this up into more like shapes, because I've got a broader shape here, like this. Comes out behind the ear, and then comes in like this. Another shape attached to the back, and I'm going to end up intersecting with my crappy page layout. And this shape here, I have a feeling that he intended this to be just a bit of fly out hair, and that should have been colored, like it should have just been white. That's kind of my guess, based on what I know of his work. And so now that I have the basic kind of shape in, and it is a strange kind of face for me to draw, this is why it's so useful, I think, for you to try different artists that do different, work in different ways. You'll find one artist, you might love their work, but it just won't mesh for you. And then another artist, it just will. It'll feel right, and you kind of jump on it right away. And there are things with Travis that just feel absolutely right for me. And then there are things that don't. So you're always going to grow much more by diversifying your sources. And somebody earlier on asked if I'm going to look at some manga. To be totally honest with you, I would like to. I'm not against it at all. I've been limiting it down right now to some of my biggest influences, so it's kind of been that way for me. I want to kind of lead you guys through what I got out of some of my favorite artists and the way that I studied from them, and it's a question I get asked all the time, who are your big influences? And it's one thing to say, well, this artist and this artist and this artist. Is another thing for me to really kind of lead you through my process of kind of breaking their work down for myself. Does it make sense, Eric?
Yes. Yep.
Now, I will say, this is a Travis thing. He's got her hair pulled directly back this way. So it's going horizontally. And I always draw my hair that way, horizontally this way. But most people, hair along the ear, the back of the ear, goes much more downward like this. Obviously, you don't want it to look like that, but and I had to make kind of a decision a while ago when I kind of realized that the way that I'm doing it isn't really, unless you have your hair pulled back, it doesn't look that way generally. But I like how he does it, so I stuck with it. And I think it just looks great. And I think I'm going to lift up her forehead just a little bit. And I'm personally struggling with this face, so let's see how Eric's doing with this. Yeah, we're both having a harder time with this face for sure. Your hair's looking great.
Yeah,
but I think the face is so unusual for you in terms of style. It's unusual for me too.
I'm struggling with that. Yeah, I knew this one was gonna be tough.
But yeah, the hair's looking great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I definitely need to practice that more.
Yeah, well, and you mean the hair?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to soften this shape just a bit. There we go. And so now that I have this basically kind of roughed in, let me just go ahead and he's got her upper lip darkened. Her lower lip is mostly dark. Bit of a beauty mark right here.
I was going to see if you were going to miss that. The forest for the trees kind of thing. Looking at all the other details, would miss the beauty marker.
Yeah. Tom Teacher says, don't get me wrong, I missed the first part. But he says, lots of artists would just draw only nostrils. I remember drawing Psylocke like that as a kid, copying the Kuberts, etc. And like small triangle manga noses all day long. Yeah, for sure. It's whatever works. And any kind of art that you do is always an interpretation. You're not drawing life. You're drawing a flat. You're drawing on a flat surface. So it's an interpretation. And especially when you're doing comics or this kind of illustration, it's a stylization too. It's not the purpose of it to look photographic, unless, there are some artists that do that. That's never what I'm looking for personally. So, if you want to draw a triangle nose and it reads like a nose, then great. So just a few line weights underneath here. And I don't have this entirely realized, but I'm kind of okay with that because so much of it I end up just building, especially as I've gotten more of a feel of drawing Travis's hair. It gets easier for me to just kind of see what I want and see what it needs. It might need, and I'm going to extend this below the ear here. So I've got that shape coming through. Let me get some shadow in here for the ear. And I'm already barely copying this. I need to slow down a little bit, Eric. I'm getting impatient.
Yeah, it's amazing how muscle memory kicks in, and especially in areas of difficulty. Then you just you switch to what you're how you normally construct things or approach things.
That's right. And I find this when I'm looking at artists that any artist that I've looked at for influence, I go from a period of really methodically copying lines to I start to it's like falling into a groove, and over time I'm just making it up myself and using that as like a guideline. Wayne Blackman has a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Wayne. Really appreciate it. He says, hi, Dave and Eric. Hope you guys are enjoying your summer. Was Travis self-taught? He was self-taught. And I'm enjoying my summer. Hopefully you are, Eric.
Yes, definitely.
And hopefully all of you guys are too.
Not as hot as it normally gets down here, but so that's probably why I'm enjoying it.
It's been wet. Like I can't even. It's been so wet here. And we built a house 6 months ago now. Anyway, whatever. We've been here for a few months, and we finally have a front lawn, so that's been helping. But we don't have a back lawn. We're still kind of working on that, and the amount. And we've got dogs, so yeah. I love the summer. It'd be nice if it would stop raining.
Yeah, it's been unusually wet here where I am too. But I think in general, everyone's weather has been a bit cooler here down south than normal.
Well, that's a good thing, though, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. With Texas, though, you wait 10 minutes and it changes, and it'll be brutal. It'll be like triple digits. So. There's still time for it to get horribly hot.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
So finish out her mascara here. And he's got this shadow underneath. And, this is how it's so easy to pick up ticks from artists, So an artist does this kind of a thing. If you're just looking at their art, you might not do that. But if you do it a couple of times, next thing you know, it's part of your style, if you like it. Personally, more my nature to color that in. I can't help it. I just have a darker style, but that's a choice. So there is my attempt at that Travis face. I don't know. I thought, oh wait, there's a little more hair over here.
Man, there was something else I was going to see if you missed.
It's like the we get the paper, and on Saturdays they've got the, can you find the 6 things in this picture that are different from, and I'm sitting there in the morning drinking my coffee, and I'll stare at that thing for like half an hour trying to find stuff. I've done it. Lead a sad, boring life sometimes, Eric. All right. And you know what? I didn't exactly catch that perfectly, but the point for me now is I want to get that feel, and I feel like I've kind of got it. It's feeling comfortable, and it really did the very first time I started working with Travis's work and trying to look at his hair. It went this way for me. It felt right for me. So, and that's why it's so important to try so many different artists. So let's see how Eric's is coming along. And we're going to move on to the next thing. Yeah, it's actually, that really came together pretty well. Looks really good. And the hair looks great. I mean, it's the best hair that you've done, I think. Now, I mean, we're looking at Travis, but I have no doubt at all that you would be able to just do that. Legendary Mako TV says, "Hey, David and Eric, what pencils are you using?" I'm using, this is a lead holder. And Eric, you're using the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're I've got tape over mine just to protect my hand.
2mm lead holder. Mine's a Mars Technico. I know sometimes they differ in name. Mine is a plastic barrel, but
so does mine.
The majority. Oh, yours does.
I've got a little metal here. Honestly, it's these are cheap pencils. Like, these are not expensive at all. They're just cheap, and you don't need an expensive one. There's no reason. And then to sharpen, I've got a lead pointer. It's called the lead pointer. So you press out the pencil just a little bit, grab out a little. Now, there are these little slots that you can put it into, and you can see that I'm a little bit long for my slot. Can you see that? It doesn't matter. You just don't want to be too crazy long. Stick it in here, and then...
You're sharing my screen, dude, if you want to switch it.
Oh, jeez. Thanks, Eric. We're professionals here. So, anyway, yeah. Stick it in here, you spin it around, there you go, sharp. So we have a ARS $100 super chat. Thank you very much from Gringor, and he says, "I learn a lot when you stream and talk about the drawing. Thank you very, very much." Yeah, we absolutely really enjoy this. It's been great, and it's a different experience. I knew today would be a little bit slower because we're not doing gestures. We're doing more detailed, but this is what I really get from one of my biggest influences. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. And I had another picture in mind here.
That was in issue 4. You had something?
It was. So we're going to do, and let me zoom out here a little bit. I'm so zoomed in. So this is issue 4 of Wildcats. I've really everything on this figure, from the gun belts I've copied, the packs, all this stuff is so much from Travis. And I think it's very easy to find, that one artist for you that really resonates that way. And so because I had such a Simon Bisley kind of thing going on, mixing it with this really kind of gave me my own thing, and gave me my own thing without really any of it being my own. All right. Drop my pencil. So the next thing...
Did you get Gringor's super chat?
I did.
Okay, good.
I did, yeah.
Matthew Brooke has a £5, British pound, I guess.
And he says, "Hi, guys, first super chat. 2 triangles upward for heavy eyelashes." Winged eyes, I always find them hard to turn or change expression with. Do you have any tips on that? Okay, I think I know what you're saying. Okay, let's I'm just going to jump back and let's do that for a second. All right. So I'm going to draw, here's just a standard, I kind of looking straight on this way. I've got my upper lid, my lower lid, upper lid kind of covers the lower lid, and my eyebrow. And so there you go. If you turn it and you have somebody look at you, it actually, so I'm going to draw the same eye here, but it actually alters the shape of the eye, and this peak will come kind of towards you more, and then it'll go more shallow here. And so now we're looking toward me. I've got my same shape here, my same upper lid covering the lower lid. And that happens because your pupil actually projects out just slightly, so it kind of alters the shape of the eye just a bit. And then maybe I can raise the brow a little bit. But that's really all you need to do. It's not a huge amount of movement just to change the angle of the eye. If I want to look downward, something to really be aware of. Oh, and before I do, let me just quickly, got a couple of super chats here that I'm going to miss. And we don't have Meredith here. So we have John GDDR5 with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. And he says, hey, David, I started drawing a year ago. Now I'm 21, hoping to improve. Your tutorials have helped me draw a ton. Thank you. I put tape on my pencils. Yeah, way to go. It'll save your hand for when you're older. And you know what? I started when I was 20. I sure remember what it was like to be 21 and just wondering, can I make this? Will it work out? There are a lot of questions there, and in some ways that never ends. But I wish you all the best. Johnny D has a $2 super chat, and he says, Eric, what are some comics that you have drawn?
I was trying to think of some witty comment for that one. But none, zero. I'm more of a hobbyist artist, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and and not just hobbyist, really. You're kind of in the study phase for all this stuff right now too, which is why I really enjoy having you on here because we're buddies. So there's that, But also, I think it's really great. You're learning along with this stuff. I know it's high pressure for you, and we've talked about that a little bit at times, where doing this and then trying to make it work on the spot is tough, but I think it's good for you.
Yep, baptism by fire, for sure.
And I just like making you squirm.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right, so I'm gonna draw this eye looking down. So I'm gonna draw the same eye, and this will be the last one. We'll move on to some more Travis stuff. But if you look down, your upper lid drops right down, and so here's my pupil looking down. And so there you go. It's, what you really have to bear in mind is with an eye, you're drawing a ball with your pupil and iris in the center of it, and then your eyelid rests on top of that. So from the side, here's my ball, pupil, and iris, and then it's actually flesh that sits on top of that. So I think that makes it a little bit easier to think of. So here I've got my ball here. And here I've got my ball again, but I've got to point it out this way. So, yeah.
There's two new super chats from S. Trista.
That's Steve Trista. Steve Trista is a friend of mine and a very talented artist. And actually, I haven't seen Steve on here for a bit, so it's great to see you, Steve. And he says, Dave, have you checked out Travis's Space Girl series? Also, what did you think of the Dustin versus McGregor fight? Thanks, Steve. Okay, so I have Space Girl, yeah. By the way, let me just run through this quickly just so you guys can see this. It's ridiculously good stuff. And there's so many things that I'd love to cover. I'd love to show you guys what I've gotten out of some of this kind of stuff and this kind of stuff, but it's time intensive. Unfortunately, so much so that I don't know that it's workable for a live stream. But and I just, you know what? Let's just talk about this quickly. Here he's got wall. You know what? We might try this one. What do you think about that, Eric?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that. Actually, I really love how that looks. So
what page is that, 12?
It is page Yeah, 12.
And this is
Okay.
volume 1, I think.
Right. Now, I mean, there's so much stuff in here that I've gotten so much from, but there are a couple of things really in particular that I don't want to miss. So let me just here. This wall here, he's got these cracks in the wall. You can see not only do the cracks get much thicker as they get closer, and then they slowly fade out and get much thinner, but he's also, because he's got it lit from here, he's making a break on the edges of all of his cracks, and it gives it a nice light effect. And that was a huge thing for me. I didn't always do that, and I try. Now, I'm not Travis. Again, I can't do it to the level that he does it, but what I did get out of it has been very beneficial for my art. I do it all the time. I think I've shown you guys this in tutorials, and this is really where I've gotten it. And you can see, I mean, just the difficult for me to really put into words how just pleasing it is to my eye to look at those kinds of shapes. I mean, they're incredibly random and beautiful, beyond what I don't know anyone that can do it like that. I really don't. Here's another example of something that I've gotten a lot out of. So he's got, it looks like basically like a paint surface on top of just brick below, and because this is raised, he's got this really rendered out, and then this is lighter, and he's done the same thing here. And again, I'm sure if you're familiar with my stuff, you've seen this kind of thing, and this is really where I got that. So yeah, so much of what I do is from Travis. So I missed a couple of super chats. We have.
You didn't answer the Dustin. What did you think of Dustin versus McGregor?
I was trying to avoid that one.
You were trying to avoid it? Moving on.
I don't know what to say about it. I really don't. I don't dislike Dustin Poirier. I really don't. He's a very talented, obviously, he's a great fighter. Seems like a really good guy. He's an exciting fighter. You know, I'm like everybody else. You know, I think, you know, Connor, I'm sure, has his haters too. But yeah, we all wanted to see him win, and we didn't want to see it end the way that it did with an injury. So, you know, I'm sure he'll be back. Although the is it Sean Galloway? Eric, I'm so bad with names. He's the younger guy.
Sugar
Sean O'Malley. That's right. Yeah, that was, I don't know. I mean, they gave him a fighter that was, I mean, clearly it was just a setup. Like they're just trying to make his career, so they don't want to challenge him. But that guy that he fought, while he wasn't in the same league, he was a warrior. It was such a great fight.
Yeah, I would say that his next fight's probably going to be a harder test. Although the fight that he had before this one, what was his name? I can't remember the guy's name, but that guy was a tough character. But then Sugar hurt his foot. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I remember.
So he'll get stuff for competition now.
So I think that what I'd like to do is this face here, because this is another really good example, and it's simplified compared to, like, Wildcats X-Men gets very, very detailed, whereas this is actually not heavily rendered, and it's a really good example of the kinds of folds that he does in faces, and I love how he's kind of opened up some of these things. So I think that would be actually a really great face for us to try. It's 9:13. I want to get some rocks in here too.
Okay.
So
there's two more super chats here, Dave. Rike Ingles, 1 to 3. Dave, I tattooed an angel yesterday. Totally influenced by the French method, and it turned out awesome. Just so you know, your influence goes beyond comics.
Well, that's really great to hear. Thank you very much, Rike. Rike, that's great. I'd love to see it.
And then Matthew Schill, I think is how you pronounce it. Hopefully. Hi, Dave. On the subject of eyes, do you have any tips for drawing effective eyebrows, especially when they're frowning? And please, ?
Sure. And let me. I'm gonna. Well, before I zoom in, let's cover that just for a second. So, and I'll stick with the eyes that I've got. So for this one here, we'll leave this one alone, and then we'll make this one frown. Anyway, so we'll start with this one. So I've got basically, and because you've got this shape that comes up, and then the eyebrow sits at an. I'm off the. This is such a disaster. Okay, so I've got an eye socket here, and the eyebrow sits on a plane change that kind of curves downward. And so when I draw that rectangle across it, I want it to sit that way. So I've got a rectangle here. I've got a rectangle for the outside edge, and then I've got another piece here. And if you think about it in 3 pieces like that, that kind of gives you the deformation points for it too, which can be very helpful. And so to make it frown, also it's very difficult to make an eye frown with the eye open really wide. So I'm going to change that eye. Generally speaking, when you really frown, you also kind of constrict your eyelids. And so here you can see you can see a bit of a shadow of the eye. It doesn't look angry at all. It just looks like it's kind of lidded and really messy, I know. But and so I'm just going to bring down, obviously you bring down the center and you bring it in across the nose. And I'm drawing the same thing. I've got that shape, and then my outside shape. And then you can really, take it further by putting some wrinkles on the nose. And it really comes down to what you're doing is you're drawing all the fleshy part of your forehead downward in towards your nose, just like this. So it's about the eyebrows, but really it's about using your whole face, and you're creating folds in there by doing that. So there you go. I hope that that's helpful. All right, so we're gonna zoom in just a little bit. Zoom in. Hopefully I'm not too close. I'm too close. Okay, there we go. That's not bad. Let me sharpen my pencil, and we're gonna work on this face right here. Tomik has a 99-cent super chat. Thank you very much, Tomik. I really appreciate it. And by the way, Tomik, really incredible sketches that he's been doing on Instagram. I've been seeing them almost daily. He's doing figure studies, and I think he's really come along over the last year. And we also have Honest Battler here. Good to see you, Honest Battler. He says this is just a fantasy. And Story by Osmosis has a $10 super chat. Thank you very, very much. And he says, thanks for doing the channel, brother. Can you offer advice on deciding on your artist identity? I love drawing Mobius Darrow, but also your new school high impact comic art. How to decide? Osmosis. You know what? That is a great question. I really appreciate that. What I would say, because I love Travis Charest, and he's a dynamic artist, but that's not something that I get from him. I really get more Simon Bisley. That's my favorite, and Mark Silvestri. And there's some other artists that I get for that, that kind of impact. Another one is Carlos Pacheco is a big one for me. So, but for finish, I love Travis. And so you can take that. You can take Jeff Darrow, that kind of extreme detail and craziness, and you can take Mobius and some of the way that he puts in his rendering. I would say copy a bunch of his stuff, copy his rendering, and see if you can get a feel for it. And then, if you have an artist like a really, dynamic artist, just do simple sketches of their work. I'm way off the page, but, just draw, here's like a chest shape. My arm's going to come back like this. My hand here. I'm just keeping it really simple, but I want to get a feel for that figure. And just get, and you want to pick up on the skills of different artists as much as you possibly can. And you'll find you can actually mix the two, and you'll get something that really works. So that's what I would recommend. And I think you'd have a really incredible style. And I've seen some people, Ledron is a really good example of an artist that's kind of done that amazingly well. And while I say this, here I am. I don't know how yours is, Eric. Yours come along, Eric.
Still in the last sketch phase.
I'm doing what I always do when I'm talking more than thinking. I'm drawing this face without doing a proper breakdown. So here's my eyebrows here, my nose here, my mouth is going to be just about here, my chin. So these are even divisions. Another one for my forehead. And that way I can get, even though on his face here, he's got it kind of cut off, but I want to make sure not to have mine cut off. Well, I'm going to cut it off, but I want to make sure that my form follows through.
So Thomas actually he meant to send some text with that super chat. It says, "Hey Dave, how do you draw gestures using the flow of real people? And have you ever used your elbow or shoulder to draw?"
My elbow. I would say, you know what, let me throw some rendering lines. This is about as far as I'll throw a rendering line, and I need to extend my arm out, so let me lower the paper. I'm going to try and go as long as I can. That's about all I got. And I'm not using my elbow or shoulder for that at all. I just don't have the control there. And see, you can see these two kind of came together. I don't have as much control at that kind of a distance, but it's not bad. They're fairly evenly spaced. I'm going to say this right here. And you can see how I'm kind of building up to that. This is a much more comfortable distance for me. Paul Simpson said, "Can't see." Hopefully you could see it in the end. All right. And Richard M8422 said, "Bad miscalculation. I missed the first 79 minutes." That's right. All right. Here we go. And quickly, let's see how Eric's is coming along. We haven't checked with your stuff for too long here.
That's very light. I'm just trying to get all the just the construction down. And some of these shapes are absolutely crazy. And I'm also seeing what also, I mean, Ryan Utley is insanely good with these type of shapes.
Oh, you know what? He really is. Not only, actually, Ryan Utley is so good with those sorts of shapes. He's also incredibly, incredibly dynamic. His art, I think he'd be a great one to do some studies of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just going to wing it, see what happens.
All right. So I've got his eye here. Here's that kind of little part here. This area here. His nose is fairly wide and short. And so I've got the center kind of stalk here. And I really like how he defines. He's got a line. He's hooking up under it here. Is that right? Yeah, pretty close. And then here.
Yeah, I would say this is definitely right up your alley, this guy.
Well,
really
it's
got its out on your rendering here.
And, you know, bear in mind just how much of my rendering is from this, you know? Mm-hmm. It really is. Not just this guy. I mean, quite a few others too, but definitely this guy also. So, yeah, I have every advantage over you in terms of like going in comfortable because I've been studying this stuff for so long, and you're still killing me on some of these sketches. Really,
I'm a deer in headlights here with these textures.
Are you?
Oh yeah.
You know what though? I bet you by the time we're halfway through with this, you'll feel much more comfortable. Like I think it'll start to really make sense quickly. All right, so he's got a couple of these little dealies on his chin. Let me just start getting this in here quickly, and we'll break that up over there. Okay, so ready to move on. Geroid L says, "What is the best way to practice and understand anatomy and structure for all types of bodies?" I think the best way to study is to start with gesture drawings, something along these lines, just to get an overall figure. You really want to also start with proportion. So, you know, I'm not going to draw it, but a figure is 8.5 or so heads high if it's a superhero, less if it's not. So you want to get a sense of that, get some figures kind of working, and then you really need to just go in and start to learn your anatomy, and you know, do that with anatomy books, that kind of thing, and then you really have a choice. You have to decide the kind of artist you want to be. If you want to be a fine artist or maybe a fantasy artist, that kind of thing, you really want to look at a lot of life, you know, and use photographs and photograph models, that kind of thing. If you want to be a comic artist, really, you need to look at comic books. It's the truth. And, you know, I've seen enough times where people kind of frown on that, but all those the same people that frown on it also do it. They just don't want to admit it. There is so much accumulated knowledge over generations of comic artists, and you can't ignore it. And you really, I can look at just about any artist, even a genius like Travis, who some of the stuff that he's done over the years, it just seems like it comes out of nowhere. He started out, and you could plainly see all of the things he took from Jim Lee. And with Jim Lee, you could see the things he took from Kevin Nolan and from Arthur Adams and from John Byrne. So it's the way to do it. Okay. Breaking my pencil. So I'm going to get his mouth in. He's got very, very thin lips, so I'll just slightly and I want to make sure on his face he's got that lower lip just inside his eye, and I am probably just slightly out too far.
Man, the amount of details on this is insane.
Yeah, but you know what? It's all about getting a feel for his. There's a logic behind how it works, and when you get the hang of it, it'll be like a light bulb. I'm telling you. Like by the time you're finished with this drawing, you'll have these kinds of folds. It'll be working for you. I'm sure.
Yeah,
could be wrong.
One thing I've noticed here is there's a lot of double lining.
Yes.
And that helps add detail with just going over what you did, but just like on top of it or directly under it. And it's one thing I've picked up here so far.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to get too carried away going down his face here and getting all this in. I want to get some of it in.
Net S Saint, does Dave only answer super chats? No, he doesn't only answer them. What question do you have, Net S Saint?
Yeah, look, what I could tell you is I certainly tried to make sure to not miss super chats because people are fantastic questions. I can't, but and I certainly don't want to just be asking or answering those questions. At the same time, though, I kind of need to look down at the drawing. So it can be a challenge. It really can.
Speaking of which, Jamie Wojcik, $20. It's a super chat. Super excited to see this live stream pop up in my feed this afternoon. You and Travis were a couple of my inspirations way back in the 90s. I lapsed for many years, but your videos have been great for pushing me now. Thanks.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, Travis is certainly a huge inspiration for me. And he was a contemporary inspiration, but yeah, nonetheless, he really was. And I see Charlie Lee says, "Hello, Dave. What do you think about Lee Weeks' his art? Lee Weeks' art. His work to me is extremely complicated to practice. You know what? Actually, I have to say, he was a huge influence on me, and he still is a lot of times. His Gambit miniseries. Now, this is old stuff, but this is when I was really learning. Was a really big one for me." And I have found it actually really worked well for me. But like any artist that has a lot of detail, you have to be able to distill that. Honest Battler has a super chat for $5. Thank you very much, Honest Battler. And he says, "I'm pretty sure I can't improve anymore unless I'm drawing as much as a pro. At the end of the day, I'm better. But after my job, I regress." Yeah, you know what? Look, it's a fact that time is a factor in learning and being able to make that time, but I'm going to say you're certainly not going to regress. So I'm looking at this. He actually goes quite a bit higher than what I did here. So I think I'm going to adjust that to make sure to capture that. clean that up just a bit. So I'm just kind of going in and screwing up the shape just a little bit, but I just kind of want to go in here and just kind of establish all the basic shapes and get everything kind of established so I can start hanging the detail on it. Because that's really what I'm interested in with this face. It's this stuff here is just kind of setting the stage for the detail. All right.
That guy has a big melon. He sure does. Kind of reminds me of Darth Vader, unmasked.
Kind of, yeah. Well, you know what? I don't know that he started that way. I think the page before he gets blown up. So it always takes a genius artist like Travis to have half of somebody's face blown off, and it just looks, beautiful. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start to shadow here. And Eric, let me know when you're ready to switch over so we can see how yours is coming along.
Will do. Yeah, I'm stuck in texture land over here.
So it's got a bit of line weight here. And one thing I would say, Eric, is try and do it this way too. If you're finding it overwhelming, start with the big shapes, like start with the eye here and just go with that simple shape. And then you've got the nose, get that defined. And then the large jowl areas around the nose here.
Okay.
And then the shape for the mouth, as long as you've got that there, you can kind of come down here. You don't have to get all that yet, but just, the large overall kind of shape there.
Okay.
Define the outside. This is all dark here. Yeah, if you try and draw all those little lines, you'll go nuts. But if you just draw the important ones at first, and as much as I want to go into the bottom here, I love these kinds of shapes. We're gonna end up running out of time if I do that. Matthew Shields has a $5.49 super chat. Thank you very much. He says, apologies for the off-track question, but do you have any advice for how to draw deltoids effectively, please? Mine often look flat when shaded. Okay, well, let me just say, so for a deltoid, just from a bit of a three-corner, you've got your front muscle, you've got your center muscle, and then you've got your back, which you can slightly see there. And then your bicep would come underneath. And when you're shading, you want to think of it, here's a bit of this is the shape that you're overall dealing with. So you've got a bit of a plane change here, and then you've got a plane facing up here, and then this plane here. And so if you light it, obviously these aren't completely hard and fast planes, but if you light it like a ball, but then also kind of consider the fact that there are some kind of plane changes in there, you can get quite a bit of dimension to your lighting with it. So that's what I would really kind of recommend, thinking about it in terms of something that has like I'm kind of trailing off here and I apologize, but from the top, you can imagine it being kind of shaped like this. So this would be the top plane. Here's my head sticking out. Here's my neck, my chest, my arm coming down from that. Just like this. So if you're lighting from here, then this would be dark through here. And then your bicep. You'd obviously have shadow from your head, your arm would cast a bit of a shadow onto your body, and you want to start lighting it like that. But you don't want to think of it in terms of like a complete plane change, but thinking about it dimensionally like that when you draw it can really be very helpful. All right. I'm learning how to draw. Says, will you do another sketchbook? I'd really like to study your pencil work. Well, thank you very much. I have a sketchbook. Actually, you know what? We have Monday Night Draw Season 1. We have all the artwork turned in for it. It's being put together right now. So it should be pretty soon. And I'm not doing it myself, so it's actually going to happen.
All right. So Netta Saint says, I've been debating with a fellow artist at work about how I draw women, which I learned from Frank Cho books. They told me it's too cliche and I need to draw them pear-shaped or V-shaped. I don't know who else you can reference who draws better women than Frank Cho.
I've got other favorites for sure, but yeah, he does incredible women. And what do they mean? It's cliche.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who's to say? That. I think they're absolutely beautiful. And whatever. You know what? I have made comments to people about in terms of critiquing work based on style, which I really disagree with. But there are times that just trying to be helpful, I want to say, okay, this is what publishers are kind of looking for. And that's a valid thing. But, Frank Cho is an incredibly talented artist who does beautiful, beautiful work. And he's very, very successful. And so, yeah, cliche. I guess, cliche in the sense that everybody loves it. So you see more of it. Yeah, I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, his ballpoint pen drawings are absolutely insane. I don't know how he does it. He's exceptionally talented. Yeah.
Yeah, he really is. So I've got a bit of a dark shape here. I'm just gonna kind of throw these in dark just to get my basic shapes in. Another one here. Our sump pump just went off. I almost jumped out of my chair.
I heard something.
Yeah. It's been so wet here. It's, it fills and fills and fills, and then it fires up and drains out. So yeah, I just want to kind of get this overall shape here kind of thrown in. I want to point out, actually, Frank Frazetta got that critique in the early 70s with some of his paintings. He was up for some kind of an award, for like an illustration award, and the critique that he got was his work was cliche and dated. Okay, yeah, and who are these people to say, So yeah, you want to be leery about looking at the kind of work that people are not interested in buying. I would say that's a valid thing. If you can make it work, great. And I wouldn't want to ever say, "Oh, don't look at this art," or I wouldn't want to say that. But personally, I think it's a wise decision that want to make choices that are commercially going to be more viable for you, I think. But definitely don't let some artiste tell you what's good.
Yeah, it's odd that the cliche comment, because there's not many people that draw women like him, so I don't know what the cliche is from.
It's very based on an older style, like Frank Frazetta.
Gotcha.
There's another artist. There are a few, Dave Stevens. So it's kind of got its roots almost more in a pinup style from like the 30s, that kind of thing. And
like Dodson as well, I think.
Sure, and who it is that decides that is unacceptable? Well,
yeah,
I disagree.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna these shapes here. I just want to quickly kind of throw in. They don't need to be perfectly, like, if I miss them, I'm not copying this 100%. There's no point in doing that. Drive myself crazy trying to copy every single little line. So I just want to kind of get these overall kind of big shapes just kind of thrown in. Relatively closely.
I think I might have missed a super chat here. Brandon Spence. So another question, how do you go about learning form and structure? Was it just from copying and trying to break it down into those basic shapes?
Yeah. Okay, well, I learned about form and structure from How to Draw Comics Marvel Way. I keep going back to this guy here, but there are a lot of simple figures like this. That was a revelation for me. The idea that you could just draw a simple figure and then build your detail on top of that as a structure. So, and then Bridgman, how to draw. It's Bridgman's Guide to Life Drawing. I think there are a few different titles for it, but it's George Bridgman, and he was an absolute genius at breaking things down into these really great kind of hard shapes. I'm a huge fan of that, and I'm a huge fan of being able to find my own hard shapes that really kind of work for me. Sometimes based on toys, even. The articulated joints on toys actually can be really interesting to try and work with. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that, and I think it meshes really well with an understanding of anatomy, because I want something that I want to understand where the muscles go, but I also want to have an idea of what those planes are, and so much of it is copying artists that do it well. So yeah, there you go. Honest Battler has a $2 super chat. Thank you very much. He says, art critics are good for nothing. Awards meaningless. Yeah, they are. It reminds me, I won an Eisner Award because I did a book with Tom King, who was a very popular writer with the Eisner kinds of people at that time. And I'd be lying to say that I have any value for that award at all, because I don't think Jim Lee's ever won an Eisner Award. And as far as I'm concerned, if Jim Lee hasn't won an award, it's not worth winning. All right. Let's switch over and see how Eric's coming along. Yeah, it's looking really good. So how are you feeling about it?
I'm learning a lot.
Yep. And it looks like you... Sorry?
Go ahead.
It looks like you're doing a pretty good job of kind of breaking down the larger shapes and then, working some of the smaller sort of fold details in there. And that's really the way to go about it.
Yeah. I'm just loving just how much detail you can get just by drawing a line twice. Let me look for an example. Like here, you draw it, but then if you draw it right next to it again, it really just adds so much detail. And the same thing over here.
Yeah.
Which I know you mentioned in your drawing perspectives course or full-length tutorial you had, was just drawing double line on something really boosts its detail. And I'm definitely something I'm picking up here. So
yeah.
And just being more loose with it, When you're loose with it, you kind of find the shapes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, and Travis, he had the advantage of being a genius and also making these things up. So this wouldn't have taken them that long to do. It is definitely more difficult to have to methodically go through and try and copy the shapes that somebody else did. All right, so I've got a bit of now I'm just kind of going in, and I've got some kind of shapes here that I'm going to start to play with. And he is incredibly good at, he'll draw a curved line, give it a bit of a hook, and then it gives that line a little bit of English, as opposed to just drawing all just simple curves. And that's something I really got from Travis. So I tried to incorporate that everywhere. I've actually been incorporating that everywhere to such an extent that it's just about impossible for me to not do it. I love that line, just the shape of it. It's got a great kind of line of beauty, and then it stops in a hook. And just drawing this kind of thing and picking up some of those kinds of shapes from the kind of artist. Travis is just such a great artist at doing this kind of thing. You'll start to pick this kind of thing up. I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again when I say that, but what do you do?
So, Charest Arts asked, what was the name of this class? David did a full-length tutorial on drawing backgrounds and perspective. You can get it on his website, davidfinchart.com. If you go to I believe it's the courses section, you'll get a link to Dave's Gumroad. Maybe Russ can post Dave's website in the chat, and then also Dave's Gumroad. It's a amazing tutorial. I learned a lot from that.
Yeah, and look, in terms of just something that's free, also I've got 2 videos on drawing backgrounds in 1-point perspective on YouTube, and so much of the same kind of stuff gets covered. So if you're a little reluctant to spend money on a course, which I certainly understand, I would recommend just looking at that YouTube video or those 2, and I hope that they would be helpful. They're pretty extensive.
Yeah, Dave did a 1-point, and I did a 1-point, and you did another one drawing characters in a basically a scene with perspective, which would be 2-point. I think you did there. So there's definitely very good tutorials there that you can look at.
Yeah, not really detail in that one though. The drawing characters in a scene was more of a. That's what I need to do next, Eric. And I'm getting a little sick of drawing tight pencil tutorials. I need to just do something where I can just do quick little crappy sketches.
That'd be good.
So the last video that I just had out was a compilation of the first two, and this is what Eric was talking about with these lines kind of together. This is different for me. You know what? As much as I've looked at this face, I don't think I've ever actually tried this directly. This kind of an effect. So it's interesting for me, and I don't really know how I kind of miss this. I just never really tried it, but. Yeah, it was just the questions like some of these just compiled into a video. So that was the last tutorial video. The next one, I'm going to do an actual tutorial, Eric. So I'm doing another one. It's coming up. And then I think I'm going to switch through. I was really thinking, you know what, just for the summer, just because it's we've got a lot of stuff going on, but I'm already antsy about not having another tutorial up. So I'm going to do it.
Great. So do you know what it's on yet, or
no?
Okay.
So Eric sent me a list 2 months ago or so of a whole bunch of things. But the problem is there's so many good ideas on there that I'm like, oh, now I'm torn. But it'll be one of those.
Cool.
And so, yeah, now this is really just kind of, I'm going to kind of continue that effect around these little shapes here too. Very interesting kind of way of, and he's not just going circular, like he's really kind of breaking these up and keeping it jagged. Otherwise it would start to look very strange. As it is, I don't know that Travis, I can't think of a time he's done exactly this anywhere else either. It's very unusual for him. Or, well, my experience of Travis feels like it's unusual. It's probably not, and I just didn't really pick up on it. And so I've got some of these lines kind of defined in, and now I'm just using them to kind of inform some more lines. He's got some lines coming across this way. But as you detail, it starts to inform the rest of the detail that you put in. So you don't have to worry about really overly detailing and being super clean with one tiny little area. You can add just a little bit more and then a little bit more, and you kind of layer it on. And Travis did all this with pencil. This is all, once again, inked by a rich friend. And his pencils were incredible. And by the way, it's coming off the page here. His pencils were incredibly tight. So all of these line weights, everything was very nicely established, which I'm sure took him quite a while to do. Now, for these shapes here, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can really, actually, I think you can see it pretty well, but his connection points, he goes thicker. And so he's got a thin line, and as it connects to another line, so I'm going to draw a line in here, and then a bit of a connection here. I'm going to go thicker here, and thicker here where these lines connect. And that really solidifies them. And I think that works because it's essentially like a ambient occlusion, maybe, when you get those little pockets of shadow. So he's got a bit of a thicker line here, It connects to another line here, and it's I'm copying what he has here, but really it's much more important to me to kind of get a feel for the way he's putting these lines down. He's got a bit of a thicker bit here where he's kind of connecting. And then here, and I lost that shape a little. It doesn't matter. I'm just not worried about it. Or maybe I'm just saying that because I lost that shape. I'm not getting it back. There we go. Bit of just a simple line detail for the upper lip there.
This is a good question. I've been a human copy machine my whole life, and for the life of me, I can't draw anything from memory. I've copied you, Jim Lee, and others. Can you offer any advice to help me draw from my head?
Well, I'm sure you have a pretty good idea of a lot of this. So, but regardless, the only way I can answer the question is to just give you a rundown of what I know of the process. And step one is you really need to work on these kinds of figures and see if you can make these kinds of figures work and start to get dynamic on their own. And that's a whole kind of school of art, just in of itself, and do thousands of these. That will take you quite a ways. And then, and I'm sure if you're copying this, if you have a decent idea of where all the muscles go and that kind of thing, doing these kinds of studies is really well, okay. I'm talking in circles here, but I'm just going to tell you, before I started working, I did so many studies like this, some better, some worse, some just were total disasters, but I learned from all of them. And as I did more and more, they started getting easier. And once I started working, I had enough of a basis to be able to draw a lot of my own stuff, but I still struggled a lot. And so I still would pull out books. Like I would have, this book sitting on my desk, and maybe I'm not drawing this exact face, but I'm drawing something similar, and I'm taking all kinds of things from it. So yeah, I can certainly draw on my own completely, but I find to grow and to get better. And something we did with the last couple of work-throughs, and now because we're working on detail with Travis, this is very much a detail-oriented kind of a study. I'm not doing like, let's close the book and let's just do it on our own. But it really is very, very helpful to do that. If you draw something from Jim Lee, draw it from Jim Lee, and then immediately draw it on your own afterwards, like directly afterwards. So do it twice. Do it while looking, and then do it while not looking, and see just how much you can retain. And I think that should be helpful. And so he's got some kind of lines coming down here, just like, oh, by the way, I'm sorry. We have Greg L here. Greg L, Static Art. Sorry, Greg. He has a $2 super chat. Thank you very much. And he says, hey, D&E, missed the post for this, but I made it. Well, I'm glad you made it. Yeah, you know what? My fault on the post. I totally forgot to post up that we had this coming. Eric actually texted about 2 hours before the start, and he said, are we doing this tonight? What's going on? And yeah, I realized, oh no, I forgot to put it up. So So I've got a few more lines here. I want to make sure, again, I can put all my own lines. I don't even need to copy what he has. The point is, though, I'm going to draw a line. Here's a line. I'm going to connect another line to it. And now I just want to go thicker here and maybe a little thicker here, just like that. I'm going to draw another line here. So I'll just go a little thicker like this. And I can get a lot of dimension just doing that. I've got these shapes are all kind of similarly sized, so you want to kind of avoid that. So I want something that's maybe a little smaller here. And, change it up a little bit, but that's really all there is to it. And you can see I throw that pretty quickly. It's become second nature for me. It is from this stuff. And I definitely had to go through the methodical process of trying to do this slowly. And I remember when I started looking at Travis, I was drawing Cyberforce, and it destroyed my ability to meet a deadline for a little while. And then, it started getting comfortable for me again. And Tom Teacher says, I'd ask, is the criticism that you always draw the same body type when something else is required? Is it, I'm sorry, Tom, he's having a conversation. Meanwhile, I'm coming in halfway through. But James Linden has a super chat for $5. Thank you so much, James. And he says, from earlier super chat, have you ever drawn in-person life drawing sessions or just one from photo book? I have never done life drawing. I did life painting one time with my mother. She's got a painting group. Actually, we just did some sculpting not that long ago. I need to put it up on Instagram, the sculpture that I did. It's the worst sculpture you've ever seen in your life. So I did a painting from life one time, but no, it's just not part of how I learned. But you know what? I'm not an artist. I'm a comic book artist. I never wanted to be an artist. I never would have been an artist if it weren't for comics. This is what I aspired to. Being a fine artist is something that I think I would have started drawing earlier if there were any option other than, what I would see from fine art, like sitting and copying from a model with charcoal. I remember I took art in school. I took it twice. I failed both times because I would just sit there and draw skulls. I hated it so much. I'm off the page. So yeah, what can I say? I make no bones about the fact that I'm a comic book artist doing the kind of work that I wanted to do and looking at as inspiration the kind of work that I want to do. So yeah, I think that drawing from life is great. I have a great deal of respect for it. I am completely unashamed of the fact that it's not part of my study process. For the most part, I look at it a little bit here and there for lighting. Michael Johnson Curry is here. Good to see you, Michael. He has a $10 super chat, and he says, what is a good way to balance heavily detailed backgrounds and detailed characters? I'm hearing a lot of writers, editors want to see more detailed backgrounds, but it seems like a lot of the masters less so. You know what? I got to be honest. I tend to lean toward more detailed backgrounds. And it's just something I like. And I think Travis is a really good example of the kind of ways that you can get a lot of detail in your backgrounds without it overpowering. And that is, in a panel, I've got it's like an alley and I've got some garbage. So I'm going to draw, here's a wall for my alley. It's just going to be dark. Here's a garbage can, a bit of garbage spilling out here, some cans, some things, whatever. And it's all, I'm going to light it kind of from here. So this side of the garbage can is going to be dark. This will be dark here. All kind of dark here. And most of this can just be kind of shadowed out. There's really not much there. But then I'll really go in and all kinds of cool detail and just have some fun with all this stuff here. And so it looks really detailed, but really there's not that much. It's mostly just shadow. And, that's really using your composition to use detail effectively. I think, in terms of classical artists that I think of when I think, how that can be done masterfully, Rembrandt. Most of that picture will just swim out into shadow and just disappear. But where he's crisp and detailed, it's so crisp. And so much so that he would actually, really raise up and get textural with the paint. And I love that. So I don't think you need to overly detail, but you need to find places, focal points where you overly detail. All right. Let's see how Eric's coming along here.
I think I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, that really came out very, very well. Can you zoom in a little bit? Would you mind?
Let me, give me 1 second.
Dan O'Bara says, just joined. Hello. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And Sheldon Martin says, I'm lost between the lines. I'm going to go back and draw this guy again. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. A couple times I think you can be very, very helpful. Yeah, you know what? That came out great. And it's a different kind of detailing that I've seen you do before.
Yeah, definitely worthwhile.
Not only that, but I just want to point out that you made it work. Like that, all that detailing looks like it's laid on there properly. Like it's working. Considering that when you started, you felt completely intimidated by it,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think like you said, picking out bigger shapes and working small, and then working small definitely helps. Yeah,
I'm pumped. It's great.
I like something else that I like is this whole deal here that he does.
You're a little bit off the page right now. I had you zoom in, and now okay. So sorry, what was it?
It's just basically these lines that he has like this, and then crossing along the form.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bit of a less kind of here. I'm just going to do it on mine quickly because I know what you're talking about. So it would be like right here. He has a couple lines, kind of.
Yeah.
Like that kind of a thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really nicely done. And it's a really not rendered out style. It's for Travis very simple, and for me, I tend to like to go with a million little lines. So I love seeing a lot of detail without it, just resorting to rendering. And I think the more you can get on your picture without it being just rendering, yeah, it can be more interesting.
Yeah, and then something else I noticed is these small little marks over here. You know how normally the rendering of like such, but here if you have something dark or whatever, I mean, he's just got small little, and it just works. He just makes it work.
Yep.
Because I don't know, I don't see any rendering on his art really, as far as cross-section goes.
Yeah, not at this stage. This is when he was working on this stuff here. He's gone. Now, you know what? Actually, I'm just gonna quickly. So I've got this book that I showed you guys just a minute ago, and the art in here is very, very different than what he did later on. This is already very different. Let me zoom out. Wow. Oh, Sheldon Martin has a super chat for $10. Thank you very much, Sheldon. And he says, "Thank you so much for doing this work stream, guys. Very helpful, motivating. Well, I'm really glad. I'm really enjoying doing these a lot, especially Travis. I'm such a big fan of. So, okay, so let me zoom out here so you can kind of see this book, but." Travis was using a lot more solid black at this stage than he did before, and some of these lines, this was very different for Image Comics. These thick lines, and this is very Mobius. And actually, I really think that a lot of what he was looking at was Mobius. It really reminds me of Mobius, and it's a little hard to pick out just because he had so much of his own kind of aesthetic that went into it, that mixed with it. But
which book is this, Dave?
It's another Wildcats. It's an earlier issue. It's issue 26. So it's like an earlier run of Wildcats. And like this kind of thing here, I mean, and this is what I'm talking about with, beautiful detail and then just really nice composition. It's very, very simple, but because this detail is so nice and effective, it just works. And you can see up here, he's got this balcony, very detailed and clean. You don't need much if you do that. Now, I unfortunately tend to not be, that clean and restrained. But and actually, at the end of this is some early Dave Johnson stuff. Some of my absolute favorite stuff. Dave Johnson, he's a phenomenal artist, phenomenal cover artist, and he was the main designer for Ben 10. And you can see a lot of that kind of design aesthetic in here. This would have been before Ben 10. Very, very cool stuff. Anyway, yeah, so I forgot what I was talking about. I have no idea what I was talking about, Eric.
I think you're talking about his style changing.
Right.
Maybe just do some more rendering in his work.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. So yeah, this issue here he changed so much, and this came out and it was a shock to me. It took me a second to kind of get used to because I was loving what he did before, and then with this stuff here, this is an earlier issue. I know it has no cover. I'm not the best in my comics. There's a little bit more rendering in here, and you can see he's got, I don't know if you can really see it. It's a little zoomed out, but it's like a bit of an earlier kind of a form of what he went a little bit more heavy with here. And then later on, he did Wildcats X-Men, which was really, really heavily, he was inking that himself. And so he just, the rendering on it is very, very small and clean. All right. So it is, hey, howtodrawcomics.net is here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's just good to see you here. It says, incredible stream, Dave. Thanks for all of the useful insights. Have you got any tips for where to place your plaques to help make the composition read better? I've noticed Mark Sylvester is a master at this. You know what? I feel like you're teaming me up with that one. I really appreciate it. I'll tell you what. I'm going to show you quickly. This is, such a lesson that we all got from Mark Sylvester. So and I've done this before, but so here's a panel. I've got a guy standing here. He's happy. And, let's cross his arms. Okay, so there we go. And it's just kind of flat, And so what I can do is I can start by saying, I'm going to light it from here. So into the page this way. And so I'm not even going to worry about lighting on the actual figure because we're just talking about compositional lighting. So I'm going to cast a shadow behind him onto the wall. Just like that. And because this shadow is dark and he's light, that automatically pops him out a little bit. It makes it a little bit more interesting. And then what I could do is I'm going to just do this. And I'm basically just creating a shadow over him with a kind of a triangular shape, just like this. And what this kind of represents, I could go here too. This is like a window. So, you'll see this in film noir. You've got the vertical blinds through it like this. That's really what that is. You don't need to put the vertical blind kind of effect in there. It doesn't even need to come from a window. You just do this effect and it just works. So, really simple terms, I've got, let's say, here's a doorway and the door's hanging open and there's like a dead guy on the floor and his gun is whatever, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. But the point is that, and here's the wall behind. I can do the same kind of thing. So I'm going to draw some blood coming off the guy here. Yeah, I'm totally changing what I'm doing here, but whatever. I'm going to draw some blood here. And so the blood's going to be light and I'm going to start like this and kind of do this sort of a pattern below him. It's too small, so I'm drawing it over here so you can kind of see it. And so there you go. And it leads your eye into where that guy would be kind of laying there here. So that's what I'm thinking here. And then I want this wall to be dark behind him, but I don't want it to just be completely dark because it'll just close in. So I'm just going to do the same kind of a thing, just like that. And just use a bit of a compositional shadow up here, and I can kind of continue it up there. And you can see that immediately closes your eye. This is so small. Can you even see what I'm doing?
Yeah, see it.
Okay. And then, a bit of a crown molding up here. There you go. And yeah, just compositionally, that sort of, and now that's one thing, just using this sort of kind of, triangular cast shadow over backgrounds is really, really effective. It works every time. And then the other big thing that Mark would do, and we all learned this one, is I've got a pipe here and then a chimney behind it here. And maybe another chimney here. And another one here. And it kind of starts to get flat. Now, if I decide that this is light, I can make this one dark. And then this can be light behind it, and this can be dark. I can layer another light thing behind that, and then another dark shape behind that. And I can go back into infinity, and you can see how much it just starts to push back. That's just using layering of dark and light. It is so effective, and that's something I learned from Mark too. And thank you really so much. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the question. One of these days, it would actually be great to have you on the channel and talk about some things. So, that's something we should plan at some point. So, Eric,
yeah,
I'm thinking let's hold on. It is 10:09, so I think we're gonna kind of wrap it up there. I wanted to do some some
Rocks.
so thank you. Some rocks. I can't remember the word rock. So I kind of wanted to do that too, but it's getting a little bit late. So I think maybe we'll kind of leave that one off. And really so much of what we were doing with rocks really comes down to this effect right here. It's very much the same, and you can see it. Let's find the one that we're all through here. The way he approaches this stuff, it's very similar. And then the one other thing that he would do, and I'm just gonna, let's just do this as a quick, quick mini tutorial. But something he does really well, I love this. He does these kinds of divots, and it really all it is you just draw a shape like this, and then draw your shadow down inside it, just like this. And then you can draw a shadow where it kind of curves under. And you'll see this on people's work so much for like bullet holes, that kind of thing. It just really works rather than drawing like the whole shape, just drawing that shadow shape. And then this kind of a thing here. So I was going to do a whole bunch of that, but I'm not going to keep you guys up all night doing that. So I think we'll wrap it up there with this face here. That was actually quite a bit to cover. I enjoyed that kind of more than I thought I would. I don't know about you, Eric.
Oh yeah, absolutely enjoyed this. Definitely learned some new things, and that's the whole goal. So
it really is. Well, and hopefully all of you guys kind of got something out of that too, and hopefully a few of you have been drawing along with us, and I mean that's where you really, really get a lot out of this. So that's going to be it for this one. The next one we have the same time next week, Sunday at 8:00, and we will have the masterful and very nice to come on the show, Ariel Olivetti. We'll be painting together. Bean.
Yeah.
And
Tom Teacher actually asks before we go, what will we need for the Olivetti stream? Acrylic paint. We're going to be painting Bane, as Dave mentioned earlier. So you definitely want your the paint that you're going to need for skin tone, I'll I don't know if I should paint. I don't know if I should post supplies, David, or what should we do there? Because I can, we can post colors, but it's really up to. There's so many ways, to paint skin tones. So it's kind of difficult to suggest certain colors. But
there we go. I'm sorry, I trailed off because I'm drunk. I was trying to figure this thing out. I switched cameras. It didn't work because I didn't have my. All right. I'm sorry. I totally missed that fighting with this thing.
Tom Teacher was just asking, what we need for the stream. Acrylic paint. As far as colors go, it's kind of hard to suggest different colors because skin tones kind of.
Right. What I would say is, you want just basically a basic palette. I think black and white, blue, and I know Ariel Olivetti, I think, uses ultramarine blue. You think that's right, Eric?
I'm not quite sure. As a matter of fact, that's one of the questions I'm gonna be asking him. I know for like the skin tone, he uses red, orange, blue, and then red, orange, blue, and white for the lighter skin tones. So yeah, just working with some primaries, you'll be able to mix most of what we have. I think yellow ochre is a really good one to have. Burnt sienna and burnt umber, and yeah, that's so basically just a basic. Standard kind of a painting palette. We'll have some colored pencils too. I think the colored pencils will be limited to just black and white. And if they aren't, I do apologize, but that's all I ever really use. So, I'll be learning something if they're not. We'll see. And as far as paper goes, Dave and I have been enjoying the Strathmore mixed media has been great to work on. It has been, yeah. Yeah, it's been working really well. So yeah, there you go. That's going to be it for this one. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming and drawing with us. Hopefully you were drawing. And if not, hopefully you'll give this a try later on. And thanks for spending time with us. We really appreciate it. And we will see you next week. Yeah, thanks so much, Dave. It was great. All right. Thank you.